Welcome, knowledge grabbers. You are now entering the world of KYC. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. And here we are after a lot of time, after a lot of gap. And I apologize for that. There were some constraints that we could not avoid. So here I am to check with you how are things with you so far, and how did my videos help you in your interviews in any of your career path. Plus, I was very overwhelmed to see that people are liking my videos, people are thinking and they are experiencing that these videos are giving them good exposure to their careers and interviews. And with that, I got to know that one of the viewer had an interview which helped her. My videos helped her in the interview. However, she was stuck at one point, which she mentioned that there were case study that was asked to her, and she wanted to know how would we put a case study into this particular interview process. So what I would suggest is, don't worry, case studies, keep it as simple as possible, because if you are a fresher, you would not know how to put in things into words, but I will give you tips which can help you. So now, every time when you start off giving an interview, all right, whatever questions they're asking, now if they come on the case study, let them know that you have not worked, but keeping in mind that whatever you have prepared, give them an example of a private company. Now, private company, why? Because that is one of the most complex things, because you can come up with any EDD, that is enhanced due diligence, while doing a screening. You can come up with any other situation in private companies. Now, PICs are also there, but then for PICs you have to drill down up to a 0.01% as well. So that wouldn't be much of a problem, because that is again provided. But into private companies, what I would suggest is, so suppose I am giving an interview right now, all right, and I say that all right, so if asked a question, I would say, I will take an example of a private investment company, and now the private investment company is ABC Limited, which I will then check if it is newly onboarded. If it is newly onboarded, I will go ahead and check for all the documents that are required for that particular entity. Now, naming all the documents would be the ownership structure, the nature of business, the registration documents, and so on and so forth. And you will also check what the onboarding team has taken into consideration. Now, but if there is this entity which has come for a periodic review, what will you do is, first you will go ahead and check what are the documents that are already present. Now, for an example, registration document or the memorandum of association, article of association, these are documents which will never expire. Okay, there is no expiration date. So what you will do is, you will check for these documents, you will capture it, so you will get the registered address for that particular entity. Now, what will you do is, you will check if there was any ownership. Now you have to refresh the ownership. So you'll go to the client website, you'll get the PPOB out there, you'll get the annual report, and you will get all the details in regards with the entity about the nature of business, the finances that they are holding, the revenues that they are creating. You will also get the ownership structure. So in a whole, you'll get everything from an annual report perspective. Now you'll refresh that document. Now, if it is a periodic review, you will dig down to a particular percentage. Now you have to tell them, I need to see what was the previous risk rating. So if the previous risk rating was medium, today also I will go ahead and work it around as a medium risk rated entity. Now, what is medium risk rated entity is that you will have to dig down the ownership, or you will have to dig down the ownership up to 25% of the threshold. So you need to see who's holding the 25% of the threshold. Anything below that, do not worry. Anything above 25%, you have to report that. Now in that you get to know, you're doing screening, you get to know there is negative news and the risk rating is changing to low. Risk rating is changing to high. So what will you do? You will again reconsider the ownership and then dig down up to 10% of the threshold. So now what you have done is you have covered medium, okay, giving an example of a medium risk rated entity. Also you have given a risk rating of high. So what you'll do is you'll collect the ownership structure, you'll collect the adverse media news or whatever the reason why the entity is becoming a high risk, and according to that, if there are any additional documents that the bank requires in case of a high risk entity, because EDD again will depend on bank to bank to what documents they are requiring, and again on the geographical region. Now for UK there is some other requirement, for US there is some other requirement. So if I give you an example of a bank in US, they require the Wolfsburg questionnaire if the entity is going on a high risk. Now if you talk about UK, then a MiFID consent form or a MiFID declaration is required. So again that depends on bank to bank. You need to be very clear with the interviewer that these are the basic documents that I'm talking about. But again, if I get into a bank or if I'm working with a client, it depends on the bank and the regulation that the bank is following to what documents will be required. Now that was one point. Now if they ask you to give an example of a low risk entity, simply take an example of a listed entity or a regulated entity. Documents will not much change, but for regulated entities you would not require a ownership structure. Okay, now again that depends on bank if they do, but mostly in my experience regulated entities will not require any ownership structure. Only the private companies would require, and somewhere some banks they ask for listed entities as well to have the ownership structure, and that too it should be 50% of the threshold. So you will have to go ahead and explain, okay, these all documents would be required, along with that these things would be required to suffice the purpose of low risk entity. Now if the low risk is turning into medium because of some adverse media news, the same thing that you have followed in your high risk, it is just the percentage of ownership that has to change, which will become 25% of the threshold than 50% of the threshold. So I guess these are very small things that you need to keep in mind. Prepare yourself a week before, or maybe 3 to 4 days before the interview with all the questions, and go through LinkedIn profiles. People have posted questions, people have posted answers to those KYC related questions. Please go ahead and follow them on LinkedIn. Do follow me also on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and if you have any queries, any issues, please DM me personally on LinkedIn. My profile name is Nikita Shingrani, and I would be very happy to answer all your questions, and hope this video has helped you in giving your interviews and talking about case studies. So these are in my words that I have presented. You can put it in your words, you can enhance it more as per your whatever you go through your study material. So once again, thank you so much for that overwhelming response, and hope to see you again in the next video. Till then, take care. Goodbye.